Hey everybody, my name is Joe. I'm a doctoral student studying clinical psychology, and this is Psych Made Simple. Now today we're going to continue our series on the Enneagram, and the way we've been looking at the Enneagram, at least for this series, is kind of looking at what is the core fear or maybe the trap that drives a lot of behavior for each of these Enneagram types. So the example I've given in a lot of videos, I myself am a 7, and I feel like 7s have this fear of having negative experiences or emotions, and that leads to a lot of gluttony or overindulgence in positive experiences because I'm really focused on driving myself away from that fear rather than kind of toward what I value, right? So we're trying to circle this around to thinking about our values too, and trying to think, how can we be aware of that core fear too, instead of only driving away from the fear, also make sure we're steering ourselves toward what we value in life. And as I've done in the previous videos, just wanted to point out one thing I think is important is thinking about these different types of desire that Rene Girard points out. So there could be physical desire, like what you enjoy for your own sake, metaphysical desire, what you enjoy because of the status that it brings you or the prestige it brings you. So I've talked about this more in previous videos, but I wanted to really drill in on the metaphysical desire and a couple different ideas related to that. So I think it's important to point out that the metaphysical desire can be a desire to resemble a certain type of person or certain type of prestige. So, in the example I have up here of like driving a fancy car, it could be that you really like people who drive fancy cars, you want to be like them. On the other hand, the metaphysical desire can also be a rejection of a certain type of prestige. So maybe you really despise people who love fancy cars. You think it's a stupid thing to value. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to get a, 1980 model of some crap car, intentionally so that you can reject that type of prestige and be, I'm not that type of person. And I think it's important to point out that that rejection is not really free from the influence of that type of prestige, right? Because you're literally just rejecting that type of prestige. It's really hard to ever come up with something fully independent that isn't either trying to resemble something that already exists or rejecting something and doing the opposite of something that exists. And that's a tough thing to grapple with sometimes when you want to be unique and you want to be your own type of person, right? So that's why I think that ties in with the Enneagram 4, who really wants to be unique. Now, I will admit, I feel like this is the Enneagram type that I struggle with the most in terms of understanding, maybe just because I know fewer people with this type. So feel free to let me know in the comments if you like the video, like and subscribe as well. But let me know in the comments if you have any differences of opinions in here. But the way that I see the Enneagram 4 is that they are trying to find their own identity, and in that, a lot of times they're rejecting the standard. So whereas, the Enneagram type 3, for example, wants to fit in, and they might embrace a lot of types of prestige or a certain type of prestige and pursue that, I think the 4 sees different types of, status symbols and things like that and rejects those and tries to find their own unique identity. But that's a really tough thing to do, like I said, because even in that rejection, you're still being kind of controlled by that, or you're not fully free from the influence of that other type of prestige that you're rejecting because you're doing the opposite of that. So some statements that I thought really kind of are emblematic of what the type 4 is like from The Road Back to You. I never really felt like I belonged. I'm thankfully not like everyone else. And when people tell me what to do, I'm often tempted to do the opposite. So I think that's a really good example, that last one, right? Of trying to be unique. And in being unique, a lot of times that's doing the opposite of what other people are doing or what other people are, saying it would be good for you to do. And I think, as I'm saying, it's really hard to find your own unique niche in life. I think all of us can relate to that on some level, and the 4s most, strongly relate to that. Just noticed that this was kind of circled on the 2, but really should be circled on the 4. But yeah, I think that that emotional intensity that's often associated with type 4, or just those overwhelming feelings, it has to do with how hard this struggle is to try to find your own unique identity. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think about the type 4. And I think going back to that chart from the beginning, I think a lot of the behaviors of a type 4 and every type is driven away from that fear. So maybe being a fear of being, not individual, a fear of not finding that unique identity, and driving away from everything that might be like, okay, I need to be unique, so I'm going to do the opposite of what other people do, right? And that would be those away actions. I think it's important for every type, and especially in this case, a type 4, to try to think of what you truly value. What's not just a rejection of, what your type 3 friends like, that type of prestige. Not just a rejection of that, because that's, more of an away move from what you're fearing, but trying to think of, okay, what do I truly value? Maybe that overlaps a little bit with what other people value. Maybe it is unique in some ways, but just accepting those things that you value, even if they don't fully reject the norm, and if they're not, but also they're likely not to be fully, in line with the norm. So anyways, that's my picture of what the type 4 is kind of like and what the core fear is. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Share with someone who might have an interesting opinion about it. And feel free to let me know if you have any video suggestions or anything like that. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.